Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue 1 comic books that I've read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you guys came to the right place. But before we get started, guys, I just gotta promote a new Kickstarter that's getting ready to launch at the beginning of June, and this is from Triumph Comics, and this is called Scourge of the Skull Digger. This is issue 1. Let's check out this trailer of this upcoming Kickstarter.
My orders from Ivan the Dominator, descendant and heir of Ivan the Terrible. He could rule it all with an iron fist, having me, the Skull Digger, as his general. I understand. I will be ready. Ivan has given me great power to recruit and lead his army. But it is not the power I need. I have other plans for the fallen. They serve me now as tribute, for I serve another, one who holds the very key to my existence. And flesh is the only tribute for flesh, for Lord Cadvius, and for my Lord's witch mother, Chalice. But even tribute is not enough to please a god forever.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed that trailer. Again, this is done by Triumph Comics, and if you want to back the project, remember it's released in June, so save it in your favorites today. And so in this week's episode, we got about 5 new number 1s to talk about, a number 2 and a number 3. And the first book we're talking about today is Monolith. This is issue 1. It's a mini-series premiere. This is 1 of 3. This is 24 pages. This is a $3 comic. This is set in the Spawn universe, written by Sean Lewis, and the art is done by Valerio Gardernino. I can't. I can't. Artwork's pretty cool, man. And this book is about the character, this Hellspawn character by Monolith, and he's trying to make his way back to Earth, and he comes across this, like, prison. The Earth is dying. This is well into the future, and basically this is a fight against him and Omega Spawn. And that's basically what this issue is about. Now, for me, when it comes to this book wasn't worthy because it didn't interest me enough to say, oh, I'm gonna buy the next 2 issues. And just because it's a Spawn book doesn't mean that I'm going to buy every single Spawn book, right? So I'm just gonna pass on this, but I think more hardcore Spawn fans might find this book actually worthy. But there wasn't enough story there for me. It was just battling, just action, and that's cool and all, and sometimes you get some really good visuals, but it doesn't always, it doesn't always do it for me. So that's why if I had to give this one a grade, I'm going to give this one like a C+. But again, if you're a hardcore Spawn fan, you might find this pretty badass and you might give it a higher grade. I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Man of War Invictus. This is issue 1. This one's written by Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad are behind this comic book, and the price of this one was $4.99. The art is done by Fernando Furkawa. Art's okay in the comic book. There's some cool facial expressions, some interesting creatures in the comic as well, and it's set in this world where it's like, kind of looks like this Ice Age world and whatnot. You don't get to see too much of the armor, the Man of War armor in this. You get to see it a little bit. You get some interesting characters in here. They're drawn pretty nicely, a little heavy on the inks and whatnot. But, overall, the artwork was okay in this comic book. Now, the story, on the other hand, I couldn't get through this. And you're probably wondering, well, why did you pick this up, right? Well, when Valiant came out with XMen War written by Robert Venditti, it was a really solid series. And in my hopes, I always am thinking, man, maybe they can get back to the quality of writing that series once was. And when I read this book, I was like, my gosh, like, you're supposedly supposed to know like everything that's going on in this world. They give you a brief, synopsis of certain characters, like what the armor is, who the main character is. There's a copycat armor in here, but that's all they really go by. And then the story is just boring. Like, they throw in all these alien races, all these different enemies, and all these different people. And it's just like, if you're a new reader, it's just, you kind of feel overwhelmed by everything that is going on in this comic. And you just are like, you know what? Screw it. Like, there's nothing here that's going to really interest me either. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just didn't find it very exciting, where it was like, man, these guys are great and I can't wait to read the next issue. And the story is so awesome. And it's just, I don't know, man, just like focus on XMen War himself for a little bit and just like not worry about this person and the other guy and the world that they're on and all this other shit. So this book is just, it's not worthy for me. I didn't like it at all. I barely got through it, and I'll definitely not be continuing this book. If I grade this one, it's going to be a D-. The artwork is what saved it from getting an F for me. I just thought that the plot wasn't very interesting and the characters are not very interesting. I even thought the world was very boring. Uncanny Valley, this is issue 2. This is a $5 comic. It's written by Tony Fleece, and the art is done by Dave Watcher. I love the artwork in this comic, and I love how it bleeds into the world, real world, and also from real world to cartoon world. And this book definitely pays homage to old Looney Tune comic books, especially Roadrunner or Wile E. Coyote, because we get to see a Wile E-like coyote character in this comic book. And it's awesome because he's right here. He's like walking on the side of the cliff. We get to see our heroes falling off the cliff. You get to see dynamite being thrown in here. You get to see cool things that where they create this tunnel using paint and then they can run through it. So anything that you've ever seen in Looney Tunes in the past, again, especially like the Roadrunner cartoons, it kind of pays homage to that, and I really enjoyed that. So besides the cartoon stuff or the element that happens in this comic, the story is creating more mystery at the same time, right? We wind up seeing the mother in this comic book kidnap one of the crows, asking the crows for questions like, where is Oliver going? And then you also get to see Oliver trying to ask his grandfather questions like, where did he come from? Where has my dad been? Where have you been all this time? And even though you get little inklings of, of where he's from, you don't get the full answers, right? Because then all of a sudden, that's when the action amps up and they're running from the Wile E-like coyote character in this comic. And then at the very end, we wind up finding out that there's this portal that opens up and we kind of get to see the main bad guy in this comic, but not really. The one that's pulling all the strings. And so again, it adds a lot more mystery to this book. This book is definitely worthy at this point, guys. We talked about issue 1. It was great. Issue 2 is starting to kind of branch out the story a little bit with some mystery. And I love this book. This is going to be probably one of my top 5 books on the stands right now if this keeps up. So I'm going to give this one an A+. This is definitely a recommend. Go ahead, go to your shop, pick this one up. Also put it on your FOC in case, comic shops don't always put independent books on the rack. Venom, Separation Anxiety. This is issue 1. It's a 36-page comic for the price of $5. Written by the legendary David Michelinie, and the art is done by Geraldo Sandoval. This artist, he does a lot of the Venom type of comic books. He always makes Venom very exaggerative and these huge teeth and whatnot. So he kind of, draws them like this. I think he's a pretty decent artist. Let me see if I can get a better page of Venom in here. Here's a picture of not Venom, but Eddie Brock. And then we also get the character Joy in this comic as well. Yeah, see, draws him like, has a lot of like expression on his face, and his tendrils are all over the place, over masculine, you know, just like things like that. Here's the way Rhino looks. See, artwork is pretty good in this comic. So let's talk about the story. When it comes to these Venom books that take place in the past, I think we're getting to the point now where they're starting to become a little bit too many of them, and every single Venom book that we come out with, it seems like in order to get a rise out of the audience, we need to create another type of symbiote. And I think at this point, this has been well overplayed, and it makes the comic book very predictable, okay? We get to see Eddie Brock struggling with his life. He still wants vengeance on Peter Parker. He's trying to establish a relationship once again with Joy Mercado, and doing this story. And then there's this project going on, this presentation that this group is doing, and Kilgrave is in there, Purple Man, he's in there, and all of a sudden, you know, he's in this little cell, and then the project goes horribly wrong, and then we find ourselves with Eddie Brock, you know, trying to save the day, trying to do good. Purple Man winds up escaping, and what you see is he acquires the symbiote, and now he can like control people at once, I guess, using symbiote powers. And I don't know, it's all right. It's not worth it though for me. I think I'm bored at this point when it comes to these stories, because as soon as I saw Kilgrave in this book, and as soon as I saw Venom in this book, I'm like, okay, here we go. I have a feeling he's going to become a symbiote, and he does. And then probably at the end of this comic book, the symbiote comes off of him, and he's no longer, you know, a symbiote anymore, because otherwise I think he would still be one today. You would think that, right? So, I don't know. This book was just average for me. It's a C, but I'm not going to be continuing it. There wasn't enough here to interest me or say, oh, this is so different from all the other books. And I don't know. It's a story I felt like I've read 1,000 times when it comes to Venom. The Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt. This is issue 1. This is a 40-page comic for the price of $5. This one's written by Justina Ireland, and the artwork here is done by Chris Campagna. This book is coming off the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue 49, as we kind of got a prequel of Blood Hunt. The artwork is much better in this comic book than the Amazing Spider-Man comic, and we get a quite hefty list of characters in this book as well. And the cast of characters is obviously Spider-Man himself. You have Colleen Wigg, you have Lizard, you have Michael Morbius in this, you have Misty Knight, and that's your cast of characters. And it's funny because for some reason, like, Marvel has this hard-on for the Beyond cooperation, okay? It's like these characters were in that Beyond story arc when Nick Spencer finished his run on Amazing Spider-Man. And the whole point of this comic book was Spider-Man, Misty Knight, and Lizard are trying to find Michael Morbius to make a cure to stop all this vampirism that's going on, but I guess the vampires kidnapped him, right? And what I found annoying in this was Misty Knight giving these guys all nicknames, like giving the Lizard the nickname of Lizzie. It's like, come on, Lizzie, let's go on. It's like, really? And come on, we got to find Mr. Mike and get his cure. And I was like, okay, that's annoying, like, real quick. Like, why can't we call him Morbius or Michael? You know, why do we got to make such lighthearted situation of a very dark situation that's going on in this comic book, right? So, I don't know. This book was... This is really tough for me. For me, it's going to be worthy. For you guys, I don't think it's worthy. I think this is a very forgettable series in very many ways. to the point where it's like I don't need this to experience Blood Hunt at all, and I can save myself $15 because they're $4.99 each. But for me as a Spider-Man fan, I'm going to continue to read it just to see where it goes. But it wasn't very good, and I'm probably just going to give this one an average C. It's okay. Nothing great here at all. Doom! This is issue 1. This is a 56-page comic for $7. Now, this is a one-shot only, no miniseries, no ongoing, which is unfortunate. I would love to see a Doom ongoing series written by Jonathan Hickman. I think that would be badass. And the artwork is done by Sanford Green. The artwork is very unique in this comic book. I really enjoyed it. It's very like explosive, all over. It's just insane. We get to see Doom fighting Galactus in the beginning of this. And the way Galactus is drawn is even better. I mean, he's just so menacing, like just in a way you picture Galactus destroying Earth or other planets, right? It's just like no mercy, in your face, destructive. Check out the paneling, the layouts, all the heroes in this comic book. It's absolutely freaking phenomenal. There's a lot that goes into this book when it came to the artwork. The one downfall for this comic book is that it is a one-shot and the story has to abruptly end. I think that's the downfall of this comic. But it's so beautifully written, especially in the beginning, because you wind up getting to see this story of Lord Doom trying to save the Marvel Universe, but like it like fails, you know what I'm saying? Like Galactus destroys Earth, then you see the Asgardians trying to save the day and they all fail, and then Galactus wants to destroy the entire universe with this particular device, and then it's up to Doom to try to save the day, and Valeria actually saves him, and he becomes like, he wears this new freaking armor and he just like zaps this shit out of Galactus, and just all kinds of crazy crap happens. I mean, it's all over, man. It's absolutely sane. It's absolutely worthy. You should absolutely read this comic book. I loved it. Like I said, the only problem with it is that it's one issue and it ends so quickly, and I would love to see more, man. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one an A. This is a really, really good comic book. It just sucks when you're coming out with this great story and then you have to come up with a quick ending to end things just like that. Ultimate X-Men. This is issue 3. This is a 28-page comic for the price of $5. For the speculators out there, this is the first appearance of Nico Monroe. Guys, I'm covering this comic book because I just want others out there to know what's going on in this book in case you dropped it and you're like, this is not an X-Men book. This book doesn't go nowhere. I just want to show you that this book does have a direction, and my thought process is actually coming into fruition here when it comes to Peach Momoko's writing. Now, whether you still decide to pick it up or not, that's up to you. That is your decision. This is just me letting you know what's going on, okay? So again, this is written by Peach Momoko and it's drawn by Peach Momoko. The artwork is what it is. You either like this style or you do not like this style. This comic book is very much a slow burn, but like I said from the very first issue, my thought process behind this is what Peach is going to do is it's going to highlight certain characters so you get introduced to these characters in the right way, so you know about them, you care about them, you invest in them, and then when they go on to these adventures in the future and something might happen to them, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened, or oh I can't believe that happened, and you understand who all these characters are. Especially with this book taking place in Japan, you're kind of learning the Japanese culture and different things like that. So what this book actually really focuses on here is you're actually learning about the character of May. and she is the Storm character, right? And we learn about her history, about, her abusive father, how her father actually is cheating on the mom. And then also we wind up finding out how you think that May winds up developing her powers in the comic book, how her mutant ability awakens, and how she actually uses the powers for the very first time. Okay. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this comic book, you wind up seeing Nico make her appearance in this comic as she is in school with them. And she uses the term mutant in here. So it's the first time in this series that the term mutant is used. And somehow she knows that May and Hiyashiko is actually mutants. And that's how the book actually ends. This book is worthy, guys. I think there is definitely a solid story developing here. It's just you gotta give it time. Maybe you might want to read this in trade once the first arc is done, if you're more inclined to read it that way. But this was a solid book, and I loved learning about the May character and now getting introduced to Nico here. So at the end of the day, this book was a solid A for me. Certain things are hard to understand with the cultures, but I think the more and more you read it, I think you'll start to get it a little bit more. So there you have it, webheads. There are my thoughts on the newest number ones and a couple other issues this week. I want to know your comments below and what you thought of all these books, if you read them already. And as always, guys, I'll leave you more content right here. And in fact, I have my latest comic book haul video where I show you everything that I picked up. And as always, guys, make sure you support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting. Always read those comics so we can have some great comic conversation. Guys, have a wonderful day.